Hey guys, Golic here. We want to thank Allstate for teaming up with the Golic and Wingo podcast this season. Allstate is also teaming up with fans across the country to let them know about the magic of mayhem. Mayhem during college football season is inevitable, be it good or bad. Whether it's a backup quarterback leading his team to a second-half comeback in the national championship game or the countless number of rivalries across the country, mayhem will definitely leave its mark. Simply put, mayhem in college football cannot be stopped. Unfortunately, it's not confined to the stadium. Fender benders on the way home, popped tires, cracked windshields, mayhem is everywhere. That's why I'm here to remind you that in those crazy moments off the field, Allstate is here to help. Leave it to me to cover the mayhem in the game, but stick with the experts at Allstate to cover the mayhem off the field. So get Allstate and be better protected from mayhem. For expert advice, call your local agent today.
Remember when you couldn't order a ride at the press of a button? Or get online without hearing this? Or get Domino's delivered to over 150,000 unexpected outdoor locations? Wait, what? Introducing Domino's Hotspots. You can finally get pizza delivered right to the beach, the quad, or the dog park. Not at home? Not a problem. Find a Domino's hotspot near you and get 2 medium 2-topping pizzas delivered for $5.99 each. 2-item minimum. Handmade pan pizzas will be extra. Ask for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary. Restrictions apply. Visit Domino's.com for details on Domino's Hotspots.
This is the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast.
Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio and ESPN2. Glad you're with us. Presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Mike Golic Jr., Trey Wingo here.
So what's interesting of the whole Le'Veon Bell thing is today is install day, but guys are probably there. It's probably a lifting day. It's probably in the weight room right now. I'm sure we got guys there lifting. I would imagine, right?
Yep, someone coming in early in the morning, getting a sweat, or going and firing up the film.
I wonder if Le'Veon is, if he's not there and if he's going to show up today, it's going to be pretty soon. If he's not there already, we don't know, obviously. I'm sure we'll find out, but we're getting right around that crunch time. First meeting's probably, 8 o'clock? Maybe 9. I'm not sure how every team does it a little bit differently.
Yep.
Some guys, again, they'll split it by a lot of times by position who comes in and maybe has to lift. I would imagine the O-line's already lifting.
Probably. And I mean, listen, it's week 1, 2. You're getting antsy. You're finally to the real football. You're out of the doldrums of training camp. So guys are going to be in there finding out pretty quickly. And I have to imagine, as much as everyone's going to try and downplay this, Mike Tomlin included, that it's on everybody's mind waiting to see if this is true. And some of them I'm sure know. Like, I'm very interested because Marquise Pouncey probably knows Le'Veon pretty well at this point.
Exactly.
If this is something he's communicated to his teammates at all yet.
Yeah, I don't know if he knows him that well, because if he knew him that well, he would have said book it instead of count it.
Right? It's a fair point, Trey.
Good point.
I felt like he went as strong as he could without actually booking.
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
count
right,
it,
right.
step down there.
Correct.
You're waffling a little bit still.
He left him some room. He left himself
Let
some
me
room.
just say, if Le'Veon Bell is going to show up today and we don't get many things happening during our show, it's going to happen during our show.
Correct.
There is no doubt about that.
Yeah. He's not going to stroll in at 6 o'clock tonight and say, okay,
no,
boys.
No, he's not.
Ready to roll.
No, he's not.
So we've got a lot to get to, including some fallout and some reaction to the Nike decision to have Colin Kaepernick as part of the 30th anniversary of the Just Do It campaign. We'll get to all of that after we start with what's trending. And Rafa once again working hard. Rafa Nadal lost the first set to Dominic Thiem 6-love and battled back in a 4-hour, 49-minute match, needing 5 sets and a deciding set tiebreaker to move on to the U.S. Open semifinals.
4th time he's been bageled in a major. The other 3 times he lost. For this number 1 seeds to lose the opening set at a men's major. It happened 2 other times. Both times it was Bjorn Borg in 81 and in 76 that went on to win. Incredible. I mean, 4 hours, 49 minutes in this heat. Everybody talking and complaining about the heat. You got the break in the men's where they're actually going back into the locker room. You have guys taking a shower, retaping, hanging, chilling out as much as they can. I mean, it blows my mind. I mean, you sit there and you watch this thing. You have to really understand what's going into this and the the condition that these tennis players have to be in anyway to play that long, let alone in this kind of heat.
That sounds like a two-a-day. The idea of showering and getting retaped is actually mental torture in the middle of that. Because I understand you feel the need to do it, and especially with the tape and everything like that, you want to refortify.
Right.
But going through that process again and having to go back out there, there's just something so mentally taxing about that. You can't really understate what role that plays in the middle of a round.
Rafa has talked about this many times, saying to win a match like that, you have to be willing to suffer. And he admitted suffering was a big part of what happened last night and, quite frankly, this morning.
Guys, I just can say thank you very, very much, everybody, for staying here tonight. Have been an amazing feeling. I am playing a lot of hours this year on this beautiful stadium. That's not bothers me, just bothered my legs, but just very, very happy, and just can say thank you very much for all the support. That energy without you will be impossible to win the match.
What we don't know is he had to get up this morning for a fantasy football draft like John Millman did.
Yeah, exactly right.
And by the way, we'll get into John Millman's actual draft. He took a leap of faith with that one. He did.
He absolutely did. He's waited with bated breath this morning as well. If that leads you to who you think his pick was. Serena Williams, she gets the win against former world number one player Caroline Pliskova. She started out slow in this one and then gets the win 6-4, 6-3. Defending champ Sloane Stephens, she got beat. John Isner, our last American hope on the men's side, he got beat by Juan Martín Del Potro. He was the one who said, Del Potro in the break, he showered, he retaped, he said, I don't want to go back out there. He laid down on that table to get retaped. He's like, I don't want to go back out. He went back out and he won. They pushed some, or they stopped some junior matches yesterday as well with the heat. It's been tough, been very difficult and stifling with that humidity out there.
We were a day removed from seeing Roger Federer sort of humbled by the heat out there. Yeah. And I thought that was going to go that way for Serena for a while. She just looked out of sorts, wasn't very accurate, didn't seem to have a ton of control, and then somewhere just flipped the switch, as she often does. But you saw that very clear moment where she rattled off 8 straight games at that point between the first and the second set and really took control of the match. But for her, I always enjoy, she really wears the emotion out there. You battle through all of that with an all-time great, and it's tremendous theater. She really knows how to bring that in.
Well, that's the thing about the Open. The U.S. Open always is the biggest theater stage of the 4 majors. It really is. The Australian's the fun one. The French is the quirky one because of the clay. You never know.
Right.
Wimbledon is Wimbledon. You know, and the U.S. Open is the drama, the bright lights, all that stuff in New York City. By the way, back to Nadal real quickly. That was his second match at this U.S. Open that lasted over 4 hours. He had another one earlier that was 4 hours and 23 minutes. And that stat's incredible. Brought to you by OnStar. Advisors are ready to help when the unexpected happens. OnStar, hey, be safe out there. Well, speaking of being safe, a fan was hit in the face by a foul ball and taken to a hospital during Tuesday night's game between the Tigers and the White Sox in Chicago. The man was sitting in the first row on the first base side at Guaranteed Rate Field, well beyond, guys, where that netting extends on the camera box past the dugout when he was struck by that liner.
You know, we bring that up because it's happened over the last few years, whether it's a ball, a bat getting coming, a broken bat, or a fullback going out of the hands of the batter. Where should that netting go? How far down the line do you make this thing go? Does that interrupt the enjoyment of the game for people who are sitting closer to the field? Do they not want to put the net up? And then every now and again we get one of these and you just fear where it's got to go before more netting goes up. So as you said, just right past the netting, line shot foul ball. Game was held up for a few minutes, and the word used, bleeding profusely from the face when the guy got hit in the face. Ended up walking to the first aid station before being transported to the hospital. Obviously, if we hear about anything of his condition, we'll pass that along. But it's got to be an unbelievable, scary moment, and you just pray you have those seats that, you know, people are aware of what's going on, whether it's a ball or a bat coming at you, and you're able to catch it, avoid it, or get the hell out of the way, or whatever you have to do.
Yeah, only so much you can be aware of, though. I mean, there's a million distractions if you're sitting there watching a game, so you can try and certainly protect against it as best you can, but as far as the responsibility, people sitting there, you're still interacting with the game environment like everyone else, so unfortunately you can't be ready and always watching for something like this.
Well, and that's the thing with a baseball game, there are so many lulls.
Yep.
You know, it's easy to get to not be locked in
every single pitch
on every pitch, and your mind wanders for 1 second, and boy, you just hope for everything for the best here. And again, we'll see how that plays out, and if we get any update on this condition, as you said, Mike, we will let you know. All right, as we continue here on Golic and Wingo with one more item in What's Trending. Alex Ovechkin.
Oh, boy.
Took the Stanley Cup to the World Cup, Washington Nationals baseball game, slept with a thing. It was all fine, except he crossed that line of demarcation, guys. And that line of demarcation, keg stands. Can't do it. Not going to have it.
Not sure why you can't. I don't really understand.
Well, so they said they're worried about the cup being hurt in this. You're putting a lot of pressure. Anytime you're doing a keg stand, you're putting a lot of pressure on the surface below it, and it's not a fortified keg. It's the Stanley Cup. And so I know the keeper of the cup, Phil Pritchard.
You're not laying on it.
By the way, that is one of the great. I'm the keeper of the cup.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good title. What is your title? Keeper of the cup.
That's got to get you some free drinks.
Yes, continue.
But I thought it was interesting. It's not officially banned yet. When the cup goes in after it's run with everyone here, it's going to get a little checkup from the neck up, a little tune-up to see if there's been any structural damage and if they have to actually ban keg stands going forward.
I mean, I get it. You're putting your hands on the keg, and just think of it. You're standing on your hands on the keg, so your weight's on it. Put something around the Stanley Cup that you could put your hands on. You know, whatever.
Well, see, that's less fun though than just going right in and saying I did a keg stand out of the Stanley Cup.
I can see that being a tough call though. I mean, the integrity of the cup and staying together. I mean, you could really damage that thing.
This is just such straight up hockey guy territory, though.
It really is.
Like I said this morning, we were back at Notre Dame this weekend, and everyone else that's around my age right now, as the guys approach 30, we all kind of took the night off on Saturday night after, and I was getting videos from my old friends that were on the hockey team doing keg stands at 4:30 in the morning while I was sound asleep. So it is a group that would absolutely test the limits of the cup like
Junior,
this.
I know you've done a keg stand.
Yeah, well, I always said it's difficult being the big guy at the party and trying to do
people
that.
Up. That's just you get your teammates.
You got to hold you up, right?
Yeah, it's got to be the rest.
Have you ever done a keg stand?
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
What day is it? Yes, I have.
I don't think
when I say what day is it, yes, I did them in college. I haven't really done it since.
They weren't that big when we were in college.
It still worked, yeah. Oh, we definitely
I'm not
did
sure
one,
if I ever did a keg stand.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I did a lot of stuff. Yeah.
So,
I'm not sure if I did a keg stand.
How close is the nearest liquor store? Like, if any liquor store is listening right now, you can get us a keg this morning. We need Wingo to do a keg stand here. I don't know if we can legally do this at work, but we'll find out. Ask forgiveness, not
beer
permission.
bong? You done a beer bong?
What?
Beer bong?
What?
A beer bong?
A funnel? A beer funnel?
What?
Have you funneled a beer before?
You've never funneled?
Oh,
okay.
I was like, do you? Have you had alcohol?
Ah, the big hook right there.
It just tastes so good when it hits your lips.
He's going to do one. He's going to do one. Now, keg stands, I just think that was past us, I think, for the most part, right?
No.
It seemed to be pretty in his prime.
No.
No, I don't think so.
Hell, when my brother Bob was at Notre Dame during some of the festivities.
He was in Prohibition, right?
We did keg tosses.
Thank you.
Prohibition.
they got it.
Wow.
You just let that one slip right by.
Because it was stupid.
Well, welcome to the theme of this show. So, come on. All right, Golic and Wingo with you as we continue to get set for the start of the NFL season, which is just 24 hours away. There it is. But we're still waiting to figure out what's going to happen on a bunch of issues. One of them is how this decision by Nike to incorporate Colin Kaepernick, who, by the way, is in the middle of a collusion lawsuit against the NFL,
right?
And that's still ongoing, by the way, being part of Nike's 30th anniversary of the Just Do It campaign. Obviously, it's gotten a lot of reaction on both sides, but Chris Long, who's always been a very thoughtful person, I think, in all of this, was asked about what this means going forward, having Kaepernick included, the Eagles' defensive lineman, who, by the way, is trying to do this season what only Ken Norton has done, win 3 straight Super Bowls, 3 straight years, the only player to have that claim. And this was his thought about it when he was asked.
What do you think it can do?
Well, I think for a lot of kids and for a lot of younger people that might feel like, especially probably people of color that are looking at Cap and saying, well, if I speak my mind, there's gonna be this negative repercussion by the powers that be, and the NFL being one of them, who's obviously levied unofficially their blackballing. But then you see a major corporation like Nike get behind them. It kind of reinforces that you can still stand up for what you believe in, and you can still be a mainstream face that people look at, and you can be marketable. And I think that's the positive of it to me.
And by the way, here is the official statement attributed to Jocelyn Moore from the NFL, their new Vice President of Communications and Public Affairs, about this. Because remember, Nike has just signed a 10-year extension or actually, excuse me, an 8-year extension. Their deal is up after the 2020 season, so they have that one through, and then they have another 8 that comes on after that. So they're in a partnership with the NFL right now, and now they also have a partnership with Colin Kaepernick, who, as we said, is suing the NFL over the idea that they allegedly have colluded and conspired, as Chris Long alluded to in that soundbite, to keep him out of the league. So here's what the NFL said about it. The National Football League believes in dialogue, understanding, and unity. We embrace the role and responsibility of everyone involved with this game to promote meaningful, positive change in our communities. The social issues that Colin and other professional athletes have raised deserve our attention and action. And guys, I think we can all agree that sometimes the NFL spills it when they don't need to.
Yes.
And they get into some things that get them in trouble. I thought actually this was the best possible statement for them.
Yeah.
For a lot of levels. One, it just basically said, hey, we're behind the players, which has been an issue, right? The NBA and Adam Silver seem in lockstep about being partners and trying to work together. That has not been the case a lot of time with the NFL and the NFLPA and the players. This seems to be leaning down that road, and it's almost about not what they said, but what they didn't say.
This statement would have rang a little more hollow had they not pulled back on the national anthem policy, quite honestly.
Right.
Could you imagine that statement, but still having that policy out there where it kind of goes against everything they're trying to say right there? By the way, there's still no end in sight to what the policy is going to be. It's off the table.
Another thing hanging in the balance.
While both sides talk about this. It seems that this issue has started to, at least I heard from our guys' sides, Will Kane and Stephen A., over to the Nike side of this thing and Nike's role in this and what we're to believe about Nike and people jumping on Nike saying taking advantage of a social issue to make money and this kind of thing. My thought is, the hell did you expect?
They're a company.
They're not non-profit. They're for profit. And I did hear Stephen A. say, where were you the last couple of years? You had him on the payroll. Where were the shirts and where were the hats? Well, it would have been toxic to the company then. Nike is about selling gear and making money. If you want to believe it's under the guise of the social issue, well, I'm sure there's some intent there, but let's make no mistake about it. They're going to sell product from this and they're going to make money. So you can choose whatever you want to do out there. If you don't like what they're doing, don't buy it. If you have no problem with it, you buy it. But I just found it odd that it was all going to Nike with what their thought process was and why it took so long, and now they're going to they're going to profit.
That's their job.
What did we think anything different in any of their campaigns? Did any of their campaigns not make them millions and millions of dollars? That's what they do. So why should that shock us at all that they were doing this and they're going to make a profit on it?
It just seems inconsistent as a criticism because when we looked at the NFL and people talked about why Colin wasn't on a team or in the league, people would say, well, the NFL's a business and this conversation all affects their bottom line. There was no talk about their core beliefs then or how they're somehow disincentivized or disingenuous because there's a bottom line attached to it. Everybody's got to make money. The interesting part to me in this, and the part that I think Stephen A. and Will Kane both miss, is that Nike looked at Colin Kaepernick and said, this is someone we believe can be profitable.
Yeah.
Like throughout all of this, that's been the discussion is about what is Colin Kaepernick for business. And Nike said, this is an area where we think we can get a come up. Like with young, I read an article on CNN. 15 to 17, but Nike said, I think in general, about 3/4 of their sneaker purchasing power comes from ages 35 and under in a group that's going to be a little more aligned with this. And if you're Nike, you've been primed for this. You got LeBron James and Serena and a bunch of other athletes on the payroll that have already been either A, supporting Colin, or B, saying a lot of the same things. Like they absolutely knew this was a win. But the fact that it is a win is still, I think, the most noteworthy part of this.
Well, the funniest thing that came out of yesterday was, oh, look, the Nike stock dropped 1 percentage point. Clearly it's... Get out of here with that. Get out of here with that. That is not having any understanding of how the market works, okay? By the way, that drop was almost along the line of all sneaker companies yesterday.
Correct.
Okay? So let's know what that is, and maybe most importantly, what that isn't.
Yeah.
There's a difference between causation and correlation, okay? Those are completely different things. Now, over a long time, if over a 3-week stretch, the stock continues to drop, then you may be able to connect the dots. A 1-day dip based on something usually never means anything.
It's a risk. Nike is taking
Without
a risk.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
That is but it's one that we believe is calculated. We talk about why they waited so long. You're weighing a lot of the options. You're gauging every part of this. And for them to look at it and say, based on what we've understood about our demographic, and everyone wanted to talk about the NFL understanding who their fan base was when they made decisions about this personnel move, Nike's making the same decision. And it's just very interesting that they understand that they believe this next generation of their consumer base buys into Colin Kaepernick, sees Colin Kaepernick as a positive force, sees this cause as just. Now, one thing that Stephen A. and Will touched on there that I think is going to be interesting, and I said this yesterday, is how does Nike stay true to the message that matters to those guys, that matters to Colin Kaepernick and to Malcolm Jenkins and to Eric Reed and all of these guys? How does their campaign reflect those values while also making money, which to me, if Colin Kaepernick's being paid and Nike's getting paid, that's kind of secondary to me to, all right, is this focusing on the core message?
Well, I mean, listen, as far as Nike, it's not, it's primary, right?
Yes.
I mean, for Nike as a business, there's a reason they didn't do this 2 years ago, right? It would have gone over like a lead balloon, correct? I mean, isn't there a reason they waited for this? There's a timing issue. That's why when I heard Stephen A. say, where were we the last 2 years? You know what they were doing? Waiting.
Yes.
They were waiting for the
calculating.
right business moment to hit the nail on the head, and basically, they're trying to play the sides of the social issue and for profit, but let's make no mistake. Rarely, if ever, is Nike or any other company going to do something that doesn't try and make them money.
The metrics that they have monitored over the last 2 years in this say to them, this is a win for us. This can be a win for us despite the blowback. Now, that's not saying that corporations have thought that before and It's gone completely wrong. Just Google New Coke kids from the 80s and see what happened there.
70-some days, I think it lasted.
Exactly. Yeah. So there is clearly marketing strategies that have thought they were going to play out that didn't work, but they have obviously spent the time on this to think, yes, there will be blowback from a certain segment, a demographic, but our core demographic, we think this will win for us.
They've also aligned themselves with a specific message and a specific vantage point. Like, that's the risk. This isn't a company who said, oh, yeah, we found a win that allows us to stay in the middle and keep everyone happy. Right. No, this is one where they very clearly aligned with the message and with the goal of what Colin Kaepernick has espoused this entire time.
I completely agree with that, and they think it's going to be profitable because they think they waited long enough for this situation, because I know there's so many people saying, well, now we've lost the message. Well, for a lot of people, a lot of people feel the message has been lost.
For a lot of people, the people never heard the message to begin with.
Yeah, and that is a shame because you want that message there, but is it up to Nike, just like we say, for other companies, is it up to Nike to keep that? Now, they have aligned with that message, so I agree with you, Mike. How do they keep going along with that message? But let's also, at the end of the day, they are a business, they are a for-profit business, and they are going to profit.
Golic
and Wingo.
And Wingo.
Mm-hmm. Trey Wingo and Mike Golic Sr. I am looking forward to talking to Jim Furyk, the Ryder Cup captain, when we get a chance again, who was on with us a couple weeks ago. Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio and ESPN2. Again, first 2 hours of the show on radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests will join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. So let's sound off on Jim Furyk's Captain's Picks, brought to you by ADT. Considering home security, consider this. For 140 years, ADT has helped stop more crime than any other home security company. Visit ADT.com to learn more. So what was unknown became known on Tuesday at 5 o'clock, but really it was known. The 3 Captain's Picks of the 4 that Jim Furyk has at his disposal. The first 3 were announced yesterday, and they were Bryson DeChambeau, Phil Mickelson, and Tiger Woods. Not really much of a surprise there, guys, because, again, the top 8 qualify for the Ryder Cup, and in sequential order, the next 3 that just missed qualifying, 9, 10, and 11, were Bryson DeChambeau, Phil Mickelson, and Tiger Woods. So nothing that happened yesterday surprised either of you, right?
Yeah, it was chalk. It made it easy for Jim Furyk, in all honesty, because it would have been much more interesting had a Tiger Woods who was trending in the right direction. But we know from where he started this season with no points towards the Ryder Cup, to get to this point or to get close would have made it much more interesting. Would him trending in the right direction have superseded someone who was next in line on the points list?
Yeah, the next choice, these were the easy choices. This is like if you bet money on it, it wasn't any better than even money. That was going to be these three guys. The next one, Tony Finau seems to be the favorite. Now, he is not next in line. As you mentioned, Trey, these were the next three in line in the Ryder Cup points.
Yeah.
Finau is not the next in line.
No, the next in line would be Xander Schauffele. So, I mean, listen, they stopped the points, obviously, when they announced the team. So the top 8 that made the U.S. Ryder Cup team, Brooks Koepka, obviously 2 majors, Dustin Johnson, Justin Thomas, Patrick Reed, Bubba, Jordan Spieth, Ricky Fowler, and Webb Simpson. Those were the top 8. And as we said, DeChambeau, Mickelson, and Tiger were in descending order, 9, 10, 11. And then you get to that last pick, which will be announced next week. Now, 12 would be Xander Schauffele. 13 would be a veteran Matt Kuchar. 14 and 15, I think, are where the debate is going to fall here between Kevin Kisner, who's been very consistent, and Tony Finau, who is at 15th. And, of course, played that ridiculous round with Jim Furyk at the PGA Championship where I believe he had 1 par on his front side. I mean, he had 7 birdies and a triple bogey and a par. I mean, he was just all over the place. Now, I think that it's leaning or trending, to use a word that Jim Furyk has used quite a bit, toward Finau because, remember, it's match play. In match play, holes don't carry over. You either win the hole, you tie the hole, or you lose the hole. So if a guy can make 7 birdies and then gack away with a triple bogey, it really doesn't hurt you as much as it would in stroke play because then you have to deal with those 3 over strokes throughout the entire 18 holes. It doesn't work that way. Well, crap, I lost that one. I'll go make the next 2 birdies on the next 3. So a birdie machine is something you like. For Kisner, the idea of keeping in a play for team play, like when, I don't want to mess up my partner. I understand that part of it. But when you got a guy that can birdie it from anywhere, that is a weapon in match play.
Great ankle flexibility, too. So
Yes.
we know we've got that in line. It's either great ankle flexibility or the guy that's killing me Schauffele with his swing.
Oh,
yeah. Wow.
Did you just go Roberta Flack?
Did somebody give you
Wow.
that?
I say in honor of our fallen researcher, Brett Parada.
Yeah.
That was nice.
Got to put that one. I know
Wait,
Brett
who?
would have loved that somewhere.
Yeah.
Who?
He's on this show?
I don't know who that is.
We don't talk about that man no more.
By the way, the
Yeah.
biggest win for all this, and I don't even know who
Brett being
has
gone?
who has the
Who's Brett?
who has the rights to the Ryder Cup? Who's broadcasting?
Oh, yeah.
That's NBC.
Because as soon as Tiger was picked, that was boom, done.
Ratings bonanza.
They didn't need to listen to anything else.
People are sick of Tiger.
Oh,
Come on.
yeah.
People keep
come
telling us
on,
that. They keep
please.
telling us
Needle
that.
moving.
Please. Yeah. I mean, that's all NBC was waiting to hear.
Yes.
And they knew they were going to hear it. As soon as they heard Tiger words, everything else
We're good.
Yeah, we're fine.
We're good.
All good. Pick whoever you want. Go ahead.
And the
We're
Ryder
good.
Cup's already a slam dunk because you
Absolutely.
have the national portion
Yes.
of this. Like once
Yes.
you put USA on anything, you wonder if there's carryover from the World Cup where we were all sitting around here nervously not able to root for America. And now the next thing we get to sink our teeth into is the Ryder Cup. Everyone just transfer that. We'll all be at bars and watch parties at 9 a.m. It's going to be great.
No, listen, this is a lot of fun. And obviously they're going up against the European team. And he's ready to name, Thomas Bjorn is going to name his wild card. They call them wild card picks over there. They call them captain's picks over here. But our team is quite frankly stacked. I mean, you've got, Koepka, Dustin Johnson, Justin Thomas, Bubba Watson, Jordan Spieth, Tiger Woods, and Phil Mickelson, all that have major championships under their belt. And normally, this is not an event that we do really well in because of the team play. But in 2016, we came out and stomped. And then in 2017 at the President's Cup, we actually it's a 3 or 4 day event. We won it the day before the event actually concluded. The President's Cup team absolutely destroyed the rest of the world that day. Sunday's matches became meaningless. They actually won the event on Saturday.
And I just now, because you had said that about watch parties and stuff, because it is over at college and NFL weekend. But as I just quickly looked, I did not realize.
There you go.
It's my fault.
Time change.
It's a 6-hour time change.
Yeah.
So they are going to be playing in the morning.
Yeah.
You're going to get golf in the morning, Ryder Cup in the morning, and then college and or pro football in the afternoon and the evening.
Yeah.
Hey,
Wow.
already penciled in right now. That is the day we make Trey's first keg stand happen.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Keg
Yes.
stand Wingo.
Let's go. I'll drink it from a mini Ryder Cup. How about
Oh,
that?
yeah.
I will hoist my chalice.
Wow. Is
Just
that
like
going to
that.
be an awesome Saturday and Sunday?
Oh, it's just the best. Look,
Wow.
It's the only look. you may not like golf. I get it. I understand that. But the 2016 match between Patrick Reed and Rory McIlroy was basically an MMA fight. It was a WWE fight with the crowds going nuts, screaming at each other. It's amazing. It's the only thing I know where millionaires fight to the death for free. Right? That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
You know, everyone else, what am I getting paid here? We don't care. We just want to go kick the other guy's butt. So some might say those are some risky picks. Some might say the idea of what Nike is doing with Colin Kaepernick is risky. I don't know if anybody took a riskier pick than our guy, John Millman, who, remember, took down Roger Federer and then said, I got to get up for his fantasy draft. And he had the second overall pick. He was deciding between Todd Gurley and Le'Veon Bell. So Bell was off the board. I mean, Gurley was off the board with the second pick. So he went Le'Veon Bell. In fact, we have John Millman's entire fantasy draft. You want to hear it? You want to hear the entire John Millman fantasy team?
Yes,
okay.
do it.
His quarterback's Aaron Rodgers. He went Le'Veon Bell, second pick. He then Shady McCoy. His wide receivers, Marvin Jones and Emmanuel Sanders. Okay, that's interesting. Must be a PPR league. He must be also high on Case Keenum.
Yes.
Travis Kelce is his tight end. He's got Martavis Bryant.
Really?
No, sorry, Matt Bryant.
No,
Matt Bryant. On his bench, he's got Julian Edelman, who's suspended, obviously, for the first 4 games. He's going full Jordy Nelson off the bench.
That's going to be an interesting one, I think, on how that's going to work out in Oakland.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of things that we're curious about that will work out in Oakland when you trade away one of the best players in football. But again,
whether it's your team that you have through the year or whether it's what we do on Sundays, we do the DraftKings for the game. I mean, Jordy is going to be an interesting one.
Yeah.
You know, of how it ended in Green Bay, of how productive he was with that quarterback, and then, you know, with the injury he had and what's going to happen there.
And again, the Raiders are the oldest team going into this season that we've ever had as long as we've tracked how old rosters are in the NFL. Yeah. Lose your best player and go old guys. It's an interesting strategy. Let's see if it works out for John Gruden.
Golic.
I tell you what, a great sports night last night, no doubt about it.
And Wingo.
What a day, what a show, what a time.
1, 2, 3, 4. It's been a long off season without football, but FanDuel has spent it getting into the best shape of their lives. That means this. FanDuel is ready for more. More ways to play. More ways to challenge your friends. And most importantly, more ways to win. FanDuel also has new options for playing daily fantasy with your friends. Because the only thing better than winning cash is winning your friends cash. Right now, you can get a $20 bonus when you make your first deposit on FanDuel. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/Stephen A. Age and state restrictions apply.
Remember when you couldn't order a ride at the press of a button? Or get online without hearing this? Or get Domino's delivered to over 150,000 unexpected outdoor locations? Wait, what? Introducing Domino's Hotspots. You can finally get pizza delivered right to the beach, the quad, or the dog park. Not at home? Not a problem. Find a Domino's hotspot near you and get 2 medium 2-topping pizzas delivered for $5.99 each. 2-item minimum. Handmade pan pizzas will be extra asked for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary. Restrictions apply. Visit Domino's.com for details on Domino's Hotspots.
We are delighted now to be joined by Pro Bowl Hall of Famer, 2-time Super Bowl champ, the NFL MVP, Terrell Davis, joining us courtesy of Consumer Technology Association. TD, we'll get into all of that in a minute, but real quickly, when I say it's the start of another season, what does that mean to you?
Real football is back, and I am excited.
Yeah, buddy. You're not alone, TD.
Yeah, you know, man, the preseason. Here's the deal. Because I was able to, you know, obviously, the preseason is always going to be dear to my heart because it allowed me to come in and make some plays and obviously make the team. And, you know, I don't know if my career would be where it is today if I didn't have preseason. However, with that said, it's tough to watch, you know, because we already know most of these teams, and you see about, 4 to 5 different spots that might be up for grabs. But other than that, you're just watching guys out there, and some of the quality is not as great as it should be. So I know they're talking about ways to kind of either shorten it or, make it maybe 2 preseason games and then start the season. But whatever the case may be, I'm excited that now there's real football we're talking about, and we're not trying to just manufacture topics to talk about.
Yeah. Broncos running back and Hall of Famer Terrell Davis with us. Now, TD, real quickly, for those that don't know your story, explain why preseason matters to you, because if you had been able to speak Japanese or a hotel concierge had been able to speak English, your career might never have taken off. So put in context how that translated into one play in one game, which really translated into everything else.
Yeah, I don't know if I have enough time to talk about it.
Give us the Reader's Digest version.
The Reader's Digest version, the elevator one, is that I was in Tokyo preseason game in 1995, our second one against the 49ers, and that week I had a horrible week of practice, and I wanted to go home. I was a sixth-round draft pick. I was getting no burn at running back, no reps whatsoever, and so I decided to go home. So after practice, I was at the hotel room. This was in Japan, in Tokyo, and I called down to the front desk, and I was asking if they can give me a flight to Denver, back to the United States. And we just didn't, she didn't understand me, and then I didn't understand what she was saying, and my Japanese wasn't great. Let me just put it that way. And so instead of booking that flight, and remember, there was no Travelocity, Expedia. You can go on your iPhone and book a flight. So I said, you know what, I'll just tough it out. When I get back home, then I'll quit. And that was my plan. So I had already mentally tapped out of plan because I figured that I was just there as camp meet. And so then we had the game on that weekend, and lo and behold, I didn't expect to play in that game. And special teams coach at the time, Richard Smith, called me in, said, Davis, get in. And I go down on kickoff coverage, and I make a huge hit. And that was kind of the hit that got me noticed by the coaches, and they allowed me to play a few snaps. I got 8 carries and about 40 yards. And the rest, as they say, is sort of history. Now, the other thing is that I was eating hot dogs before I got in there, so I threw all the hot dogs up after I went back to the sideline. So.
A couple of amazing things there is the people that don't know that story are like, wait a minute, he was on kickoff team? Oh, yeah. Number 2, you got fined today for that hit, just so you know.
No, Mike, Mike, you got to go back and watch that.
It's one of the greatest hits of all time.
Impeccable.
Terrell, it was a fantastic hit. That was my point of more ripping the NFL for flagging great hits. That hit was fantastic. And speaking of that hit on special teams, there's a player on the Broncos who may have to make his bones this year as a special teamer, Philip Lindsay, also a running back. Hopefully he'll get some carries and such, but certainly going to have to at first carry the water as a special teamer. You got a call from him. Tell us about that. He wanted to wear your number. I'd have told him to kick rocks. You obviously are a better person than me, so tell us about that conversation.
Yeah, well, so he reached out to me. He kind of texted me, and so I called him up, and I talked to him. Man, I'm telling you, he's just an impressive young man. So the conversation, he's like, I wanted to, ask you, he grew up in Denver. He's a local kid, went to CU, grew up and explained to me how my book was like one of the few books that he's actually read and finished, and he uses that book as almost like kind of his guide, and when he's in tough spots. And so we just had a real good conversation, and I just felt like he was just right, It's like he's an underdog, he was undrafted, and it's easy to give it to somebody that comes in, their first-round pick, or somebody that's highly touted. That's easy. But to me, this just felt natural. This just felt like what the number represents, somebody who is not that superstar, somebody who has to make their own name. And, again, it's been a long time. I just felt like, you know what, man, give this young man a chance, and hopefully we'll look back on this and say, man, he turned out to be an outstanding pro. But no pressure on him. No pressure. I'm not putting pressure on a young man.
That's a cool story.
It is a great story. And Lindsey's one of a couple of rookie running backs that are making the squad. He's going to make it as a special teamer. By the way, he went to high school in Denver, played at Colorado, so he's keeping it local. Yeah. But there's another guy, TD, that's starting for the Denver Broncos. He's going to be the first rookie running back to start since your unbelievable run after that big hit in the Japan Bowl on kickoff coverage. And that's Royce Freeman, the kid they drafted out of Oregon. Listen, he put together all kinds of records in the Pac-12, and people I've talked to in Denver say they are really excited about what this kid can bring to the table.
Yeah, as they should be. If you look back at his Oregon tapes, he's a versatile back, and that's really what you want. He out of backfield, catch the ball, kick, punt returns, kickoffs. He can do it all. You watch him in Denver, what he's displayed was that he's willing to put his face in there and block as well. And you can trust that. So blocking, running, catching, he's the total package. And I really believe that he's going to have himself a real good career there. They're really young in that backfield right now. But they feel like they've got some versatility. They have youth. They have guys who are hungry. I'm excited to watch it. I can't wait to see how this whole thing unfolds. And it'd be good to see them, if they're able to take things to the next level, see Denver have some success in that backfield.
Freeman, tough kid to tackle, 6 foot, about 235, 240. I mean, kind of that bowling ball type of effect there. As we talked to Terrell Davis, Hall of Famer, 2-time Super Bowl champ. In your division, a team you played obviously a ton in, the Raiders. You saw the Oakland Raiders trade away Khalil Mack instead of paying him. As I said, you want your first-rounders to turn out like Khalil Mack, like Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald got paid by the team that drafted him. Khalil Mack got traded away. Was that a mistake by the Raiders in your opinion?
Well, we'll see, man. I try to look at this thing on both sides, and it's easy for us to say it's a mistake right now. We might turn back in 3 or 4 years from now and look back and be like, man, that was the greatest move the Raiders ever did. I know it's hard for people to look at it like that now, but I try to look at John Gruden and say, okay, we have to trust that he knows what he's talking about. He trusts that he knows what he's doing. He made the comment that the Raiders' defense was bad with Khalil Mack, and there's some truth to that. They weren't very good, but I think I look at it and say, man, you have a player that it just doesn't come around too often, and people respect, and you got to build a game plan to know where he is on every play. How do you find that player again? I don't know, but you got 2 first-round picks. It better pan out, and so for forever until further notice, Khalil Mack is going to be attached to those 2 first-round picks, and if they don't pan out, then we'll be looking back and saying that it was a huge mistake. But I'm trying to be patient. I'm going to sit back and just let it all unfold and then see what happens down the road.
Well, listen, it better unfold pretty quickly for the Raiders. They can't get off to a 1-3 start because you know what's going to go on in that locker room. They're like, why are we struggling? We traded away that guy who could really help us win. It is now imperative for Gruden and the Raiders to get out to a very, very hot start. With that in mind, TD, a lot of questions about the Broncos this year. A lot of people love their draft class, but how much of this depends on Case Keenum being better than what we've seen there since Peyton Manning in 2014 at quarterback?
A lot. It really does. He's the key. Denver, when they're good, they have consistent play at that position. Emmanuel Sanders was on our show last week, and he talked about how when Case Keenum came into the building that he brought leadership, he brought some not a swag, but a confidence that hadn't been there for a while. His ability to communicate with the wide receivers, the way he works, all those things that Emmanuel was talking about was great. So I think he's going to come in and do great, man. All he has to do is do what he did last year in Minnesota, and I think Denver's going to be fine. But guys, I need to talk about why we're here.
Yes,
I need to talk about these. Yeah, because here's the deal: we want to make sure that everybody out there, the consumers, that they're having their best football season ever. And the way you can do that is we have these TVs. They're 4K UHD, which they deliver the best picture quality in the business right now. We'll start with the Samsung. It is a QLED TV. It has vibrant colors that just pop off the screen. The best thing I like about this one is it makes you feel like you're actually at the game and not watching it on TV. We also have the LG. This is the OLED TV, and this picture looks great from every angle, which means if you're at home watching it, you don't have to sit right in front of it to get the best picture quality. You can sit on the sides, and it's awesome. You have your friends over. You guys don't have to fight for that couch. And last is the Sony, and this one is the Bravia. What I love about this one, it has Google Assistant, which means that it's voice command. You can tell it what to do. You don't have to have a remote control or no remote necessary, and it's compatible with Amazon Alexa. And all of these are 4K. They're all 65-inch TVs, so go out there and get that. Now, that's the way you watch it. The sound is a Vizio home theater sound system, and it's an immersive dome surround sound. Man, listening to this makes you feel like you're right in the action. It is so awesome to hear that voice and the sounds of the game there. So even you guys sound good on this system, man.
I doubt it. And let me just say, you're good.
Yes, you are.
You are money well spent. We'll just put it that way.
Well done.
TD, you are always money in the bank. Thanks for being with us, my friend.
Thanks, Terrell.
All right, guys.
Golic and Wingo.
It was all sort of one big giant Jell-O mold.
It's very interesting where that went.
We are delighted to be joined on the phone by Andre Agassi, 8-time Grand Slam winner, Olympic gold medal winner. He joins us courtesy of Lavazza, and I just have to say he was always one of my favorite athletes when I watched him play. Andre, thanks for being with us this morning. First and foremost, in your book, Open, you went into great detail about sort of the suffering that goes along with tennis. And Rafa Nadal mentioned that after the match, that you have to be prepared to suffer. And that's sort of what makes these matches so epic, right? You either are going to close somebody out or they're going to close you out.
Well, first of all, good morning. You guys are better than caffeine, by the way. I mean, I just listened to the last few minutes. I'm like, I'm ready to go.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly tried to depict that in my book quite comprehensively, because it is a battle between two people, and the truth is there's no finish line until you get there, and it all depends on, you know, what the other one's willing to do. And so you're always preparing and training against this hypothetical, if you will, and you're always questioning, you know, am I doing enough? And you're pushing yourself really against the perfectionism of yourself. So when it comes time to test what you've done, you know, you get to the bottom of your tank, and you never quite know what that means and what you're capable of until somebody's willing to get to the bottom of theirs. And sometimes those conflicts happen in front of the world, and the U.S. Open is epic for creating that environment. And when you see two champions like Nadal, or you take a guy like Thiem, who's, you know, headed towards some great things in his future, you know, it's a joy for all of us to watch. But yeah, it's never lost on me the price that's paid and what it takes to get through something like that.
So take us down on the court there, because for a person like me who put 20 pounds of football equipment on and practice in 100-degree heat, I'm amazed at what tennis players do for 4 hours in 100-degree heat. It blows my mind. So take us down on the court when it's that hot, and then especially when you lose the first set 6-love, of just how difficult and what's going through your mind mentally, forgetting the physical part of all this.
Well, I mean, listen, I'm not going to make an argument on sports, but I just heard a stat recently where unless you're a running back in football, I mean, at the end of a game, you probably run a total of 60 yards. So when you talk about these guys, they're out there getting to the bottom of their, not just their physical capacity. So you're talking about hydration, you're talking about nutrition, you're talking about preparation, you're talking about all that stuff on a physical level, but you're also talking about the greatest test of mental capacity, because it's like you're having a staring contest. You don't have to be good, you have to be better than one person. And when somebody comes out of the blocks and, you know, beats you at 6-0, you know, obviously they've come ready and they're dropping a level on you that you're not ready to sort of step up to, and then you got a choice to make. You're going to let this guy dominate you, or you're going to put up some resistance. And, you know, the flip side of beating somebody 6-0 is when that resistance comes, you know, it's not quite so easy. So you have to adjust to that, and you get the momentum back, and and then it turns into a battle of wills. I mean, it's weird. You know, in other sports, 6-0 might mean a 20-point lead at half in NBA. You know, which allows a certain margin, but 6-0 in tennis basically means if I beat you 7-6, we're now even. So right. You've won. You know, you're up 12-7, but somehow we're even. And you know, you kind of have to take each set at a time, each game at a time, and I think that's what you see, like gladiators kind of going at it.
Andre Agassi with us, 8-time Grand Slam winner, twice a winner at the U.S. Open, 1994 and 1999. And Andre, every slam in tennis has its sort of feel. The Australian is the first of the year, and it's sort of, Australia is just a fun place to be. The French with the clay, you never know what you're going to get with the quirky bounces. Everybody knows the tradition and history of Wimbledon, but the U.S. Open seems like it's the toughest test and the toughest theater with the night matches that we see that go on forever. And the crowds, obviously, at the U.S. Open can be a little different than, say, the crowds at Wimbledon. What was it about the U.S. Open specifically that you liked and sort of people gravitated towards you about in your runs at the U.S. Open?
Well, those are kind of two separate questions. I mean, what I liked about the U.S. Open, quite frankly, when I started was very little. I mean, it came with a great deal of price to be paid. I mean, you have to remember that these people, these athletes on the tennis court here at the U.S. Open, they're not just showing up at, Arthur Ashe Stadium and playing tennis. I mean, they're staying in the city and they're figuring out their schedules and they're grinding out to the venue. They have their practice time, their eating schedules. I mean, all of the organizational stuff that just goes into just being prepared to step on the court. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere, right? So it's that sense of urgency. It's that feeling of just energy. You have to contain all that and really direct it towards your objective, which is to get on the court and have all that go away and be ready to go. So there's a lot of just basic stuff around tennis that happens. Then when you talk about heading out to that hornet's nest as you walk through the tunnel and you hear the buzzing of the crowd and 20, plus thousand people there. And by the way, 20 plus thousand people that want, you to do something that makes them feel like they're glad they spent their time this way. So there's nothing louder than 23,000 New Yorkers. And when you get their attention, you know something's really happened. And so the idea of it being quiet in Arthur Ashe Stadium is a whole different concept of it being quiet playing in Wimbledon. And I believe the distractions and the smells and all this stuff that goes along, the way the breeze works now with the roof and the way the shadows are working. I mean, there's so many nuances that two guys have to deal with. And that's the greatest part of tennis is you don't have to deal with it well. You just got to figure out how to deal with it better than one person.
Talking to Andre Agassi, 8-time Grand Slam winner, Olympic gold medalist. Going to talk about Lavazza here in a minute, Italian coffee, which I can't wait for because I'm a coffee freak, so I'm looking forward to that.
Makes two of us.
But you won a couple of your Grand Slams in your early 30s. I think Australian Opens a few times in your early 30s, if I remember correctly. And now we have multiple guys not only winning Grand Slams in their 30s, but these are the guys that are dominating tennis right now. Does that say more about those guys, or maybe that the competition level of that are trying to catch these guys isn't quite as good as it was?
Well, it's hard to compare generations and depth of competitions, especially when you're talking about arguably the three greatest players in the history of the game playing in the same generation. I mean, when you talk about Novak, you talk about Roger, you talk about Rafa. I mean, you're talking about guys that have played. I mean, me and Pete played each other, 34 times, 37 times. I mean, these three guys have played each other more than Pete and I played each other. And every time they're playing each other, it's obviously for the biggest titles in the world. So when you have that, I don't know if it's fair to judge the standard or the depth of the game beyond that because they're arguably the best ever. But with that being said, I do think that guys have gotten a lot more, for one reason or another, responsible about investing in themselves, about knowing that there's a length of career that can be potentially had, and as a result, they don't just run themselves into the ground. I mean, some of them still do, and they run into some real roadblocks physically or mentally or emotionally. But if you do it smart, I mean, you can truly, be at your best physically when you're best mentally. I mean, you're not ready to win slams at 20 years old, 21 years old. But if you're good enough, you can pull it off. When you're 30 and you know what the heck you're doing out there, if you have a body that still does what you ask it to do, it is an advantage. Say what you want. It's an advantage to have the experience of time and to have the body of a 22-year-old. So I think you're looking at people who have just been a lot smarter about how they go about the overall, choreography of their career.
Andre Agassi with us, 8-time Grand Slam winner, and one of the few that's won all four events, the Australian, the French, Wimbledon, which was his first, and, of course, twice the U.S. Open. I mentioned at the top you were one of my favorite athletes to watch because you were always interesting. I mean, there are the serve and volley guys with the big serve, and they try and beat you to death that way. You were more of a returner. You found ways to make points and get things going your way in a very different, unique artistic way. But your career was also very interesting. You were a guy that was a prodigy. You came up strong. You stumbled. You had more than one time in your career where you had to bounce back from the depths to come back and get to that top point again. What did you like most about your career and the way it played out?
Well, it's funny. I'm not sure if you're describing me or if you're describing every listener that's listening right now because, it's life. I mean, life throws you a lot of curves, and you're asked to figure it out and to persevere. I mean, I definitely have my own demons. My strengths are my weaknesses, but at the end of the day, I think the thing I'm most proud about is that I found my way to number one in the world. I'm not going to say by accident, but it certainly surprised the hell out of me. And then I found my way to 140 in the world that seemed to surprise everybody else, but didn't surprise me. And then the return back to number one was something that was what everybody, I believe, in this thing called life can identify with, and it was a reality that I was in. It was a dream and a goal that I had. It was taking an ownership of a life that I had never chosen. And at that stage, I had my reason to choose it, and I started again. And every step along the way was a reality check because I knew where I wasn't. I knew what a good day meant, which wasn't a whole lot, and I knew what a bad day meant, which unfortunately was, a lot more. And to be able to push through those day-to-days and to keep your eyes on the goal and to know that I don't know where I'm going to go, but I'm going to get one day better because today's a day and it's an opportunity to make more of myself than I know I can be. And it was literally a process that being back to the top was just a byproduct of. And I think what I'm most proud about is that because it is parlayed into a life that I haven't stopped, pursuing with that same mindset. I'm not good at a lot of things, but I know I'm damn sure that I can be better than I am today. And, that's probably what I hold on to most.
And for most of your career, you were better than that one guy on the other side of the net, which is all that matters. We're talking Andre Agassi. And tell us about Lavazza now. I know I'm interested. As I said, I'm a coffee freak, so lay it on me.
Well, I'll lay it on you. I mean, I wouldn't be talking to you this early unless I already had four cups of Lavazza. So with that being said, I get the luxury in life of choosing what I do, how I do it. It's nice, to get to as opposed to have to. And Lavazza has been a partner of mine for a handful of years, and they've been great to the game of tennis. They've been great to my foundation, and our relationship, I believe, benefits both those things, exponentially. And as a result, I'm a big fan of what they do. It's a family business of well over 100 years, and there's just something to respect about people who go about their work in that way, and the overlap is a beautiful thing because others benefit from it, and thrilled to have it. And free coffee is the last of what I love about this relationship.
Well, listen, I've had it. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Caffeine will get you going. Believe me, we get up a lot earlier, Andre, so the caffeine works for us too. Hey, listen, we really appreciate you being with us. For those that haven't read his book, Open, it's one of the greatest sports biographies you'll ever read. Andre Agassi with us, 8-time champion. Andre, thanks for being with us this morning.
Thanks, Andre.
God bless you guys. We'll see you.
Golic and Wingo.
Let's not expect too much. There's only one person out there that's expecting way too much out of this guy too early. We know who that is. It's his father. Support for the Golic and Wingo Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying homes for a minute. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a whole lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about it. They're calling it the power buying process, and here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. You win either way. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Golic. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data record. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
We are delighted to bring him in. Al Michaels of NBC Sports. He begins his 10th season in the booth with Chris Collinsworth tomorrow night on the NFL kickoff game, Falcons at Eagles on NBC. Al, good morning. Thanks for being with us. You ready for the start of another NFL campaign?
Guys, I'm very excited. It's the last day that every team in the league will be undefeated. Somebody will have an L tomorrow night. So, optimism is rampant. Everybody thinks that they have a chance to make it to postseason. Certainly these two teams do, so I'm really excited about this. But the overriding story, I think, tomorrow night is going to be the heat. It's supposed to be pretty close to 90 at game time.
Well, that harkens back to an Eagles opener they played years ago against the Cowboys, the Pickle Brine game, where they played at old Texas Stadium, and they were swallowing that pickle juice and pickle brine to keep them hydrated. Al, you've done a lot of great things in your career, and obviously some of the calls are memorable, including the best all time. Do you believe in miracles? Yes. The greatest thing I've ever heard you say is a million times about a football game, nobody knows anything. I mean, everybody goes into this season with these preconceived notions. This team's going to be good, that team's going to be bad, and then it plays out the opposite way. You really have to embrace the nobody knows anything notion when it comes to football these days, right?
About almost everything in the world. I mean, I've learned that from dabbling and then getting into it with more immersion with the stock market.
Yeah.
You listen, and everybody's got the blah 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 and this and that, and buy the stock and short the stock, and it's the same thing with football. But you know what? This is one of the reasons I love sports, because I love listening to the back and forth, the give and take. Why this team's going to win, why the other team's going to win. And the great thing about it is, and you guys know, I've always tried to slip in these references to point spreads and over-under, and I kind of do it a little coyly and have some fun with it. But the reality is, I've always felt that if I had to make my living betting on football or betting on sports, you would find me living under a freeway overpass. You'd find me under the 405 at Wilshire Boulevard in West Los Angeles. That's where I'd be.
Well, we know a lot of people are going to start gambling as it becomes legal in more and more states. Hopefully not trying to make a living out of it as well.
Not just for entertainment purposes anymore,
Al Michaels joining us. He and Chris Collinsworth will be doing their 212th game together tomorrow night when they call Atlanta and Philadelphia. You're also Sunday doing the Chicago Green Bay game. So obviously part of what you do outside of calling the game is talk about storylines. And for that game, a storyline obviously is going to be a Khalil Mack. So just take us back to when you first heard that the Oakland Raiders traded Khalil Mack away, what your thought was as far as good, bad, indifferent, or what kind of a move it was.
Well, the interesting thing was I heard it about the same time everybody else did. So I knew that it was out there, that Mack hadn't signed, that it could be a possible trade. So I heard about it at the same time everybody else did. But going all the way back, it's kind of funny thinking about the Raiders and thinking about Gruden. And the one thing about John Gruden, the only thing that didn't surprise me about this trade was that if you go back to John's history, he loves offense. He's about offense. He always has been. And now the question becomes, you want to spend, 10% or 8%, whatever it is of your salary cap on a defensive player? And so that's why I wasn't shocked, but I was a little surprised that you give up a guy like this. But we'll see how this turns out in the long term. They got obviously some top draft choices coming their way over the next couple of years. But it's unusual. It's certainly unusual to see something like that happen. And, of course, it makes our game a lot more interesting on Sunday night. I know that. Just for numbers' sake, the projected cap next year when his cap number will kick in is supposed to be like $190 million. He'll be right around the 12% range with a J.J. Watt, Von Miller type players of percentage of the cap. Yeah, and that's the other thing. And Al, we've seen as we're talking to Al Michaels, that cap is going to go up. We've seen these deals with NFL sponsors continuing to grow and go north. And look, you know this as well as anybody, with now not just for entertainment purposes only. There's going to be revenue the NFL is going to make off that. There's also the new streaming rights that are going to be going. So as people think, how can I get my head around paying one player this much? It's because that salary cap is continuing to go north. It's not going to go south. I agree. It will go north. It will go north by maybe 5, 6, 7% a year. Guys, I just look at this with a world view, these numbers. We all know about Aaron Rodgers' contract and Mack's contract, and Aaron Donald was the highest paid defensive guy for about 10 minutes. I'm thinking about the average salary of somebody in this country is $60,000 a year. So forget the inflation factor. We know that. But if you work 40 years at $60,000 a year, you're going to make $2.4 million lifetime. These numbers, it's beyond astonishing. We should be used to it by now, but I still have to look back and say, wait a minute. Yeah. The average salary in the National Football League is pretty close to what somebody's going to make their entire life. And my favorite phrase is when somebody says he's going to get paid, like he's not getting paid now. What are we talking about? these numbers are crazy, but that's the way of the world, and it's capitalism.
And then it's all relative too, because NFL players get sick to their stomachs every year NBA free agency hits, and they start to see that money go down. It's really, really incredible. As Al Michaels joined us for the start of yet another NFL season, what do you look forward to the most when this season? We talk from a player's side of it. I try and relive it of the excitement of that first week. What gets your juices going to the start of a season?
Well, it's a mystery. I mean, it's like you open up a package, you don't know what's in it. It's kind of Christmas morning in a way. Tomorrow night's game is going to be, it should be great. They played we did the playoff game here last year where it went down to the end, and Julio Jones fell down in the end zone, couldn't ball in the pass. Otherwise, Philadelphia doesn't win the Super Bowl in all likelihood, and Atlanta advances on to the conference championship game. So it's great to have this run up, and you're thinking about all the possibilities. And then it plays out. And the one thing I've always loved about football and all sports is the drama. Sometimes I think fans think that announcers root for teams. We don't root for teams. We root for games, for drama. I think the Super Bowl last year was about as good as it gets. That game, I've always said that games have an ebb and a flow. That game never ebbed. That game just flowed for 60 minutes. It was terrific. And you didn't have to have a dog in the hunt. You could have just sat there and watched it, and I just thought the drama was tremendous, and that's what I look forward to the most. I look forward to great games going down to the end, overtime, what have you, and then the big surprises that always take place during the course of any season.
Well, yes, we're talking with Al Michaels. Again, if I told you Tom Brady's going to throw for 300 at the half and 500 in the game, you would have said, book it. The Patriots are winning that sixth ring, yet it didn't turn out that way. So as we're talking with Al Michaels here, one of the things that obviously dominated the preseason, Al, was the new lowering of the helmet rule. It seems like that's played its way out to a little more normalcy over the last couple of weeks of the preseason. And we've had a couple of guys on that basically said, look, we'll call it a certain way in the preseason, and then people will know what to expect, and that'll be toned down a little bit in the regular season. Do you expect that to play out beginning tomorrow night?
I do. I think the first couple of weeks, a lot of the officials didn't know, do I call this, do I not call it? And some of them decided they would call everything. And then I think everybody got together and said, no, wait a second. It's very tough to judge intent. But if a guy is clearly, thrusting his helmet into somebody else's helmet or in an attempt to, not to hurt them necessarily, but just not do it the way it's supposed to be done, I'm all in favor of this. We have this year we get Terry McAuley, who retired, is, in my mind, one of the best officials in the NFL for years. And Terry will be in the booth with us. We all need rules interpretations these days. If Kavanaugh doesn't get elected to the Supreme Court, somebody should hire him to have him interpret the rules here. It's just so crazy. But Terry's of a mind, we talked to him last week, that this thing is going to calm down. And, it goes back to when they had replay. Why was replay put in? It was put in to correct the egregiously incorrect calls.
Right.
Then it evolved to the point where they parsed the hell out of everything. Now maybe it's going to go back to, what it was originally. And I think the helmet thing is the same thing. The egregiously wrong, the egregious call, the egregious violation will be flagged, and the other stuff won't be, for the most part.
Yeah, I agree. And it's nice to see that the video replays, it seemed like last year they were like, no, let's overturn everything. This year we're like, unless we're conclusive, we're going to stick with the call on the field, and I think everybody feels better about that. Al Michaels with us. Al, looking forward to it. We always like it when we hear these NFL chimes, and I know you do too. We look forward to tomorrow night when once again we'll find out nobody knows anything. Thanks for being with us this morning, Al.
Okay, guys.
This has been the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast. You can listen or subscribe on the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, or just ask your smart speaker to play Golic and Wingo. Plus, you can check the guys out live weekday mornings from 6 to 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN News.
Remember when you couldn't order a ride at the press of a button? Or get online without hearing this? Or get Domino's delivered to over 150,000 unexpected outdoor locations? Wait, what? Introducing Domino's Hotspots. You can finally get pizza delivered right to the beach, the quad, or the dog park. Not at home? Not a problem. Find a Domino's hotspot near you and get 2 medium 2-topping pizzas delivered for $5.99 each. 2-item minimum. Handmade pan pizzas will be extra asked for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary. Restrictions apply. Visit Domino's.com for details on that.